Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Codo's Cinema. And I'm your host, Mark Codo. Well, folks, Super Bowl is over. The Kansas City Chiefs won the game, and the San Francisco 49ers put up a good season, including Jimmy Garoppolo. So, in honor of last week's Super Bowl, I'm going to count down my top 10 favorite football movies of all time. So that means there's going to be a lot of tackling, a lot of hustling, wins, loses, football players, drafts, and many, many more. And just to be clear, or should I just say, football movies, I should say. So just to be clear, I am not much of a sports follower. So anyway, just because I don't follow sports, that doesn't mean I don't watch them. I watch some of it, but not all of it. Okay? Good. Alright. So anyway, it's time to kick off this list because we're going to hear and play some football! Okay, here we go. Number 10, When the Game Stands Tall. Kicking off this list is the football team that has an undefeated winning streak of 151 football games from 1992 to 2003. By the De La Salle High School in Concord, California, led by Coach Robert Bob, hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, La Dosure, played by Jim Caviezel. Plus, this film is also based on an extraordinary true story. However, in the 2003-2004 season, their winning streak came to an end. Even for a huge winning streak like this, it kind of hurts, but man, I mean, like that's pretty big. Even to break a streak like that, that really depends whether it's a winning streak or a losing streak. Okay, well, moving forward, while the movie itself may sound a little cliche, but right, it can be cliche at times, but it's still a great football movie to watch because even in a losing streak, it's hard to overcome it. But some teams need to stand tall when it comes to a winning or losing streak as a football player, football team, even a brotherhood. And when this film came out, a lot of people may not like this movie due to how it's being portrayed. But this film does have its fans when it comes to football movies that are based on true stories, and this movie is a watch. Okay, moving forward. Number 9, The Game Plan. In this family-friendly Disney flick, quarterback of the Boston Rebels named Joe Kingman, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, has become one of the greatest football players on the team. However, he comes face to face with an 8-year-old girl named Peyton, played by Madison Pettis, who turns out to be Joe Kingman's daughter. And throughout the movie, Joe Kingman tries to balance between his football career and raising his daughter while running into a little trouble between balancing his father figure life while being a football player. So that is basically very tough to handle, especially when it comes to like sports, being like a professional athlete. However, Joe comes to his understandings when raising a child while playing football. I mean, he still builds up to it throughout the movie, so which has actually been pretty good. Even though many people didn't like this film, it shows the audiences how athletes can turn into parent figures or father figures like Joe Kingman, going from a football player to a father figure, which is a very good concept. And like I said, I know it's tough, even for an athlete's point of view, because becoming a professional athlete while raising a family, that is tough. And to be honest, that is very tough. But it can work in multiple different ways, and in The Game Plan, it is actually pretty good. It's kind of heartfelt too. It's pretty good. It shows that some athletes can become good father figures to their sons or daughters, even in the real world too. Even though the film plays it out pretty well, especially in real life. Yeah. Thankfully though, Joe Kingman still wins his championship football game. And yes, Boston Rebels is basically a parody of New England Patriots because this film is set in Boston, Massachusetts. So, yeah. Yep. Although, hey, I still enjoy the game plan. I thought Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Joe Kingman was pretty good. That's still a good movie. Yep. Okay, moving forward. Number 8, Radio. Even though you may or may not heard of this film, Radio is actually a pretty decent film. I actually saw this film back in high school, and I thought it was pretty good, particularly the performances of Cuba Gooding Jr. and Ed Harris. The film tells the story of James Robert Radio Kennedy, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., who is a young, mentally disabled man who roams around town and observes a local high school football team led by Coach Harold Jones, played by Ed Harris. This leads to Radio to help assist the high school football team with Coach Harold Jones. Now, like I said, I saw this back in high school. It was a little bit forgettable at times, but I actually thought it was pretty good because this shows that some people with disabilities can help out. They can, and yes, because people with disabilities are probably one of the greatest human beings, I should say, of all time. And in this film does prove it because being an assistant for sports, whether it's football, it's actually pretty good. You're help assisting the team, which I thought was actually pretty good. And I seen this film back in high school, which has been a pretty long time, and that was the only time I ever saw this film. I thought Radio was pretty good, and it does have some very good football moments in this too. So I kind of recommend watching this movie. Radio is a great film to watch. It's not a perfect film, and yes, not all films are perfect, but it still has something good to watch, you know? And both performances of Ed Harris and Cuba Gooding Jr. are great. Yep. Okay, moving forward. Number 7, The Longest Yard. While this is actually the 2005 version. While a remake of the 1974 original, this film follows Paul Crewe, played by Adam Sandler, who is a disgraced former quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers who got arrested for drunk driving and is forced to form his own football team from the prison inmates going up against the guards. And that is basically the plot of this film. That goes with the 1974 original. While this 2005 or 2004, actually this remake did get a mixed reception due to what the original film had, but it still had its fair share of laughs and performances, particularly of Adam Sandler and Chris Rock, which both actors were pretty good in this movie. However, it's Burt Reynolds' take as Coach Nate Scarborough that really brings in the touchdown to how good the film is. Well, yes. Like I said, the film upon release was mixed, but it's still enjoyable to watch, even for an Adam Sandler sports comedy. Now, I actually seen this movie before. Like, it's pretty hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. It's hilarious, and yes, it does have its flaws. And not to mention bringing back Burt Reynolds to play the coach was actually pretty good because Burt Reynolds played. Burt Reynolds was in the original 1974 film of the same name, and I'm pretty sure he played the main football player, to which Adam Sandler is playing in this movie. So, and I actually thought it was a nice touch to bring in the original actor from the original film to help coach the football team in this remake. So I thought it was actually pretty good for the filmmakers to do that. I mean, it's still a 50-50, meaning it's good or bad, or it's so bad it's good. It's still an enjoyable movie. The Longest Yard is still the remake of The Longest Yard is still great. But hey, you can always watch the 1974 original. Okay, moving forward. Number 6, The Blind Side. This film tells the true story of Michael Orr as an offensive lineman at Wingate Christian School in Memphis, Tennessee, who was adopted by Sean and Leanne Tui, played by Tim McGraw and Sandra Bullock. So anyway, The Blind Side is one of the greatest true stories ever. I mean, it is a football movie, but it also dives deep into Michael Orr's past, because like he was taken away from his mom at a very young age, which is very emotional and sad. Like, being taken away at a very young age is definitely sad, but at least he was adopted by Sean and Leanne Tui, which I think was actually pretty good, which I thought was pretty amazing. And his first time on the football field in high school was actually probably one of the few good moments of that film, because oh man, it's just the fact of how I liked how Michael Orr pushed that one football opponent or football player to the bus, because, and I quote, to the bus, it was time for him to come home, or something like that. I don't know. To the bus, it was time for him to go home. Okay. Or something like that. I mean, that was probably one of the few good moments in that film, and especially in the end, how he was drafted to the NFL, which I thought was actually a nice touch to his story, which I thought was pretty good. And the performances of Sandra Bullock was great too. She won the Oscar for best actress out there, which I thought was amazing. Alright, well, looks like we're going into halftime right now. We're going into the top 5 right now, so, well, that's kind of halftime for us. So, well, this is going to be a little bit short. So, anyway, here we go. Number 5, The Waterboy. Adam Sandler kicks off the second half of this list with The Waterboy. The Waterboy is considered to be one of Adam Sandler's greatest comedy films in the 1990s since Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. The film follows Bobby Boucher, played by Adam Sandler, who is basically a water boy. Well, yes, he was fired from his water boy job by Coach Red Buyu or something, or Bayou or Buyu or something. I can't get the name, but anyway, he was fired by the coach at the University of Louisiana. So Bobby Boucher decides to find another water boy job with Coach Klein and the Mud Dogs at the South Central Louisiana State University. Along the way, Bobby Boucher learns how to play football after remembering all the mean people he had fought in the past to use as his tackling fuel. Meaning, he remembered the people that he was insulted at, because Bobby Boucher is actually not only a water boy, but he's actually a bit of a stutterer in this film, which is kind of surprising, because a lot of people in that film were actually insulting Bobby Boucher, because, I mean, for reasons like that. But I like how in this film Bobby Boucher uses that as his tackling fuel to tackle, meaning like he was able to play football, tackle people basically by playing football, remembering, or should I say, visualize an attack. Especially in the moments of how he tackles Colonel Sanders, or the professor, one of the professors, I should say, in that science class, because of the medulla oblongata. Oh god, that is still a great moment in that film. Believe me, that is the medulla oblongata is still one of the funniest moments in that film. Especially how Adam Sandler as Bobby Boucher visualizes and attacks some of the football players, which I thought was pretty hilarious. Oh yeah, I mean, yes. This is basically one of Adam Sandler's first football films that he did before The Longest Yard, and this film was also a mixed reception, meaning it's so bad it's good, but it's actually a pretty good film, especially from the 1990s. So, all right, hey, the 90s have a lot of good films back then. Okay, moving forward. Number 4, Draft Day. This is the film that longtime football fans dream of when it comes to football movies. Seeing a movie about a draft day for football. Kevin Costner plays the Cleveland Browns general manager Sonny Weaver, deciding on what to do after his team acquires the number 1 draft pick. So basically in that movie is basically about the whole draft day. So this is basically drafting the football players to draft football players into whatever team they may go for, which is basically setting up the football season. And I thought this film was actually a good film, and I actually enjoyed this film because it actually had a pretty good story. Not to mention, Sonny was deciding on who to draft. Was it who? It was either Bo Callahan or, and I'm pretty sure there was someone else. I forgot his name, and I totally forgot his name. But one of them was Bo Callahan, even though in that film, Sonny decides on the other football player than Bo Callahan for some reasons, because Sonny thought Bo was going to be a bust. Yeah, I know. Sometimes football players can succeed or they can be a bust at times, which is probably saying something. Which I know is probably saying something. That is definitely tough. I know it's kind of tough, but anyway, but hey, on the bright side, Bo Callahan was able to get drafted to the Seattle Seahawks. So it wasn't a total loss. So anyway, I forgive me for not remembering the other players' names. And I apologize because sometimes I'm not really good with I'm not really good with names at times. But on a side note, the film is still a good film to watch, and I guarantee you, it is a pretty good film to watch. Draft Day is a great film to watch, believe me. Okay, moving forward, number 3, The Replacements. Quick question, guys. What do you guys get when you combine football and Keanu Reeves? A fictional football movie where John Wick plays football. I'm just kidding. Well, it is actually true. Keanu Reeves does play football in this movie. His character is named Shane Falco, which is the character in this film, who is a former quarterback for Ohio State after choking in the 1996 Sugar Bowl game, meaning that he lost the Sugar Bowl game in 1996, which is the loss. The choking part is the loss. He lost the football game in that movie. So anyway, although he was able to return to Wonderland with the help of Washington Sentinels head football coach Jimmy McGinty, played by Gene Hackman. Yep. The Wonderland reference came from The Matrix. And the film was loosely based off of the 1987 NFL strike for Super Bowl 22. Particularly this film is a reference to the Super Bowl 22. The Washington Redskins, who actually won all 3 replacement games, which is basically the point of this film. But instead of Washington Redskins, is actually the Washington Sentinels. Which was actually made for this film. Well, just be glad no pencils were involved when deflating football games. No, or footballs, I should say. Yeah, that's probably my last John Wick reference. That's probably my last John Wick reference in that one. Because of the pencil. Well, at least no pencils were deflating footballs. So, at least on the bright side. That's my last John Wick reference, people. Forgive me on that part, but really, because Keanu Reeves went on to play John Wick later on. Basically, I thought Keanu Reeves was pretty good in The Replacements. Sometimes having an action star actor in a football game is actually pretty good. Alright, moving forward. Number 2, Rudy. Going into the top 2 is Rudy. This sports film follows Daniel Rudiger, aka Rudy, played by Sean Astin, who dreams of playing football at the University of Notre Dame while facing obstacles of school grades, money, and the physical stature to play major league football, or major football, I should say. Becoming the first film ever. Actually, fun fact: Rudy became the first film to be filmed on University of Notre Dame's campus. This film was filmed in Joliet, Illinois, and Notre Dame, Indiana. This is a great film. Rudy is a great film. The acting performance of Sean Astin was great, as well as the musical score by Jerry Goldsmith. Particularly the theme song that was played in this movie, that was so great. And in case you guys were wondering, why was that not my number one choice? But, well, actually, there's another football movie that literally takes the top spot of my list. And this next movie, for my number one pick, going into the final few minutes of the fourth quarter, is number one, Remember the Titans. Taking the top spot on this list is the football movie that is considered by many to be the greatest football movie of all time. The film follows the story of Coach Herman Boone, played by Denzel Washington, who attempts to integrate or something the T.C. Williams High School football team in 1971 with assistant coach Bill Yost, played by Will Patton. Remember the Titans is literally the greatest football movie ever. The story itself is great, especially the performance of the two leads from Denzel Washington and Will Patton as both coaches, which is great. Not only does this film had a lot of great football moments, but it does show the side of between this takes place during a time of racism, because the film's setting, even though this film came out in 2000, the story itself, this was a true story that literally happened in 1971. This is basically something like between race issues, because the players didn't get along at first when they first started practice because of their race related issues, but going into football camp, they actually started to get along with each other, getting to know each other, because that is probably one of the first few things, is that you gotta get to know each other, because whenever you're bonding a brotherhood, especially in football, you're bonding of a relationship of a brotherhood relationship, which is basically forming a family. In this film, Remember the Titans proves that. And this film has a lot of great football moments, especially an undefeated season, which was really great. Especially the final football game, or the state championship game for this film was great. It was a great film. It was great. And Remember the Titans is the greatest football movie ever, and I highly recommend watching this movie. And there you have it. That is my top 10 favorite football movies of all time. What do you guys think? You think I'm missing a few football movies? I'm pretty sure somebody or a few people are out there are wondering why Friday Night Lights or Operation Varsity Blues are not on there. Well, technically, I have not seen these films. Those football films. I've seen the films on my list, but not those other football films. So I apologize. But anyway, if you have a top 10 football movies in mind, please feel free to do so. Feel free to do so. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in to Codo's Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo. Have a good day. Have a good rest of your week. Congratulations to Kansas City on the big win for Super Bowl. And congratulations to Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers for an amazing season. And thank you all for tuning in to Codo's Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys tune in next week for another episode of Codo's Cinema. Bye.